This is for anyone who's ever doubted their worth because they didn't look, shine, or move like the people society tends to glorify. For the people who feel unseen, unchosen, or not enough. People who comparing themselves constantly. Anyone who, by accident, chased external validation while quietly whispering, "Do I matter as I am?" For women and men navigating a world obsessed with filters, perfection, and applause. It's for the quiet ones, the weathered ones, the ones who love deeply but feel overlooked, the ones who bloom differently, the ones who saved the beautiful forest but don't know it yet. I once sat across from someone who said, "I'd love to date, but who'd want someone with hands like mine?" I told her, "I've never seen more beautiful hands in my life." Because they built a life. Because they held people when they broke. And that's where this story begins. Let me tell you about something I get to see almost every day. I live next to a forest. Well, technically it's a park. But not just any park. The Amsterdam forest. A giant man-made patch of nature where trees stand tall like elders, moss cushions your steps, and if you're lucky, you spot a deer or at least a very determined jogger. And once a year, magic happens. Somewhere between late March and early April, a cluster of Japanese cherry blossoms explodes into color. Hundreds of them. Pink. Soft and delicate. And for a few weeks, it's like walking through a dream. Tourists come from everywhere. Germany, Japan, Italy, the occasional confused Belgian. All standing in awe. Phones out, selfies in bloom. But here's the thing. That forest, that living, breathing piece of earth, isn't made from cherry blossoms alone. It's made from everything. Twisted trees with crooked backs. Leaves that forgot to turn green. Shrubs that look like they gave up halfway through puberty. A single mushroom hiding under a heavy branch. Even the weeds that keep growing, no matter how many people step on them. You take just one piece out, that fungus, that crooked tree, that moss under your shoe, and it's no longer the same forest, no longer complete. And when I walk through it, and I walk through it often, I can't help but see it all. The way sunlight kisses the bark of that old elm, the way a root curls like it's been dancing for centuries, the broken branches, the gnarled knots, the quiet persistence. And I think, have you ever seen an ugly tree? No, really. Ever walked past a pine or an oak and thought, "Ugh, someone needs to fix that thing"? I haven't. Not once. I've seen diseased trees, I've seen dying trees, but I've never seen an ugly one. Now flip the script. Imagine if trees thought like us. Imagine that old, wise chestnut looking in the mirror every morning thinking, "I should really get Botox on this bark." Imagine the birch wanting to be more like the willow because willows are so flowy, so graceful, they get all the attention. Picture a pine tree begging the forest surgeon to turn it into a tulip. Because pink gets more likes. Because pink blossoms mean more visitors. Because tulips trend in spring. Ridiculous, right? But isn't that exactly what we do? We dress ourselves like Christmas trees. We filter our bark. We try to grow in ways our roots never asked for. We trade our own nature for visibility and forget we're already part of something whole. The cherry blossoms are stunning, yes, but without the silent presence of the oak, the fern, the bramble, they'd just be a photo op, not a forest. So before I go further, let me ask you, what kind of tree are you trying to become? And more importantly, who told you you weren't already enough? Let's walk a little deeper into that forest. Because somewhere along the path, between filters, fillers, and the pressure to be exceptional, we started forgetting something more important. You don't have to earn your place in the forest. You already have one. See, a forest doesn't audition its trees. The crooked ones, they stay. The bare ones, still standing. The ones that bloom for 4 weeks a year and then rest for 11, glorified. And the ones nobody notices, they're the reason the forest breathes. Now imagine if every tree started questioning its worth, if every pine wanted blossom pink petals, if every wild mushroom tried to grow taller because being small didn't go viral. It sounds ridiculous, right? But that's what we do. We try to shrink what makes us steady. We try to stretch what isn't ours to carry. And in the process, we forget we were already enough. So what's the way back? Not to stop growing, but to grow from root, not from performance. To ask, what nourishes me? What grounds me? What parts of me are quietly strong, even when no one claps? Because the truth is, the forest isn't beautiful despite the differences. It's beautiful because of them. And the same goes for you. So no, you don't have to outshine the blossom, but you do have to show up as yourself, unfiltered, rooted, real. Not to prove, but to belong, because you already do. You see that patch of moss? It doesn't shout. It doesn't bloom. It doesn't trend on Instagram, but it holds moisture. It feeds insects. It cushions roots. It matters. And that oak, the one with the bark peeling like it's been through war, it doesn't have cherry blossoms. No one's flying in from Japan to sit under its branches, but it gives shade. It holds memories. It survives storms you've never even heard about. It doesn't need to perform. And that's the thing. Not every part of the forest is here to impress you. Some are just here to be, to support the soil, to keep the ecosystem breathing, to remind you that beauty isn't always pink and photogenic. The bramble scratches you. Yeah, it's protecting something. The weeds grow wild because they know how to survive where others don't. The old stump no one notices anymore, it's still feeding 1,000 little lives beneath the surface. If you only love the blossom, you miss the forest. If you only praise what's shiny, you forget what's sacred. So here's the real kicker. Even the unnoticed contribute to the miracle, not despite their simplicity, because of it. Imagine if every plant had an Instagram bio. The cherry blossom, Spring Queen, the oak, stood here for 120 years. No hashtags. The moss, no feet pics, but I'll still soften your step. The fungus, I clean up your dead shit. You're welcome. None of them are trying to be something else. They're just doing their thing. Fully, quietly, powerfully. So the next time you feel like you're not enough, like you're not blooming fast enough, not shiny enough, not loud enough, remember the moss, remember the oak, remember the role that you might be playing, even if no one claps, even if no one notices. Forests aren't made of showpieces. They're made of pieces that show up, just like you. So you look in the mirror and think, my teeth aren't straight. My hands are rough. My body's not built like that. My eyes don't sparkle like hers. And somewhere along the way, you started believing that love is a beauty contest. That connection is something you earn by polishing, posing, and pretending. But let me ask you something. Do you want to be the blossom that glows for a moment, but needs applause to feel alive? Or the oak, quiet, grounded, still standing when all the blossoms are gone? Because let's be real. If someone only loves you when you are blooming, was that ever love to begin with? If they can't see your worth in the quiet, the soft, the unfiltered, then maybe they're not your forest. Look, you don't need perfect skin to be touched. You don't need model height to be seen. You don't need curated beauty to be chosen. What if the thing you've been hiding is exactly what someone's been searching for? What if it's not your shine, but your stillness, your steadiness, your strange little laugh that makes someone feel home? Let's flip it. You're not here to seduce. You're here to resonate. Not here to chase validation. You're here to remember your value. You don't need to audition for love. You are not a product. You are a presence. So yeah, that blossom gets the photos, the likes, the filtered reels with sad piano music. But you get the long game. You get to be the kind of beauty that doesn't beg. The kind that doesn't need makeup or miracles to be magnetic. You get to be the one that someone leans on in the storm, not just dances with in the sun. And if that's not enough for them, then there were never enough for you. You feel me?